Hello, I'm ABC 7 News anchor Reggie Aki. Joining me today are fellow San Franciscans with questions for the candidates for mayor. Andy Gauss is senior news editor covering business and politics for the San Francisco Standard. Kara Swisher is the author, journalist, and host of the podcast On with Kara Swisher. We invited each of the leading candidates to answer questions that'll help build a better Bay Area. And joining us now, Supervisor Aaron Peskin. It is good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start with the questions. You have the most experience in City Hall of anyone in this race. 24 years, that's 2 terms as president of the Board of Supervisors. Your district covers Union Square. Let's talk about Union Square. It has been plagued by vacancies. The vacancies are something like 22% right now, but it feels, I think, like more to people as they walk through because some of these major tenants have left the city. And we know Macy's, one of the anchors of Union Square, is going to leave soon. What is it that you can do as mayor to turn things around and do it quickly?
Well, Reggie, I would like to say I've served 24 years. I've actually served for 17. But Union Square, which is a remarkable destination, my parents took me there while I was growing up to see those the windows at Macy's during Christmas time, has been under pressure before the pandemic with the changing nature of retail, which is part of the reason that I've worked to restructure San Francisco's business tax, which is Prop M on the ballot, which I'm proud to say I brought all 10 members of the board together with me and the mayor to fundamentally change San Francisco's business tax to give relief to small businesses and attract new ones.
Already, though, the way that it is now, and I think people would probably argue that it has taken already too long to recover, that we have tourists who are going to Union Square and staying in that area, and they don't have much to do there.
Yeah, let me say, I know downtown and the greater downtown, which includes Union Square. I worked there. I've represented downtown on and off for 25 years, and it's fundamentally important to our economy. Which is why I passed legislation to actually fill those vacancies with residential. And as a matter of fact, just today we announced one of those first conversions for 120 units. But we need to bring things to downtown that downtown traditionally has never had: arts and culture and entertainment and residency, and that's what we're working on.
Downtown hasn't had arts and culture?
Not in that area, no. As a matter of fact,
what about the current ACT?
Now you're moving to the theater district, but what we need to do to revitalize downtown is to bring the best aspects of neighborhoods. And I not only passed that legislation by reforming the building code and the fire code and the planning code, I have a plan. As a matter of fact, I'm the only candidate in this race who has a plan to offer city financing to bring those conversions forward with lower interest rates.
You're talking about conversions to housing.
Correct.
But is housing really what people want to visit? I mean, you can't visit housing.
In order to revitalize downtown and Union Square, we need a mix of uses. We need it to be a 24-hour neighborhood. We need to have a residential component so that it's alive in the evenings as well. Union Square actually has not been marked by a robust nightlife, and this is an opportunity to do that.
Are you giving up on retail?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I am the author of legislation that has worked to preserve multi-story retail. If you remember the old days, we had FAO Schwartz and multi-levels, and just a number of years ago, those were under pressure actually be converted to offices. And I actually, with the head of the planning department, passed legislation to encourage multi-story retail. But we live in a profoundly changed world, not only in San Francisco. And I think we have to have some big ideas. I think that the central part of the city, Market Street downtown, should become the headquarters of a Center for International Tech Diplomacy. It's a moonshot idea, but in the same way that New York is the International Center for Global Politics, I think that San Francisco should embrace the concept of becoming the International Center for Tech Diplomacy, bringing together academic institutions and market forces, talk about AI, develop that stuff, fill our convention center, fill those empty office spaces. That's one of the big ideas I'm bringing to this race.
That's interesting. The words tech and diplomacy don't often go together.
It's time to change that.
Good luck with that. I've been trying for many decades.
Well, let's talk about housing a little more since we mentioned that. Since May 2022, which is when the district was changed under redistricting, city data indicates that there have been 96 housing units authorized in your district, District 3, and that was the second lowest of any district in the city. So is your district doing enough to encourage the new housing that we need to make the market more affordable for people who may want to live here?
Yeah, I think we have to look at the entire city, including the district that I've had the honor of representing for much of the last 24 years. Many people don't know this, but I have actually voted to approve over 100,000 new homes in San Francisco at all income levels. A matter of fact, more than every other candidate who is running for mayor combined. And I've done that by working with neighborhoods, not against neighborhoods. And in my own district, I've built every kind of housing, affordable housing on the former freeway parcels, a homeless shelter, a transitional aged youth shelter, and market rate housing. But remember, I also represent the densest, geographically smallest district, but I've proposed plans of building hundreds of units on the Kirkland bus yard now that we're turning that from diesel buses to electric buses. And there are many opportunities to grow San Francisco, and there's a right way of going about that, and I'm pursuing that way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the same time, you have been particularly critical of the rezoning that the city is undertaking right now. You've spent some time over the past few months visiting different neighborhoods, and you know, there's been a lot of anxiety fomented about the rezoning that we have to do under the state mandate. So, you know, is that responsible? You know, would you say you want to encourage housing across the city to participate in that kind of, you know, to give people the idea that this is going to kind of destroy the character of the city?
So I don't know if your viewers know, but there are 73,000 shovel-ready, fully approved units in our pipeline that aren't being built because interest rates are too high. And my plan is for the city to offer tax-exempt bond financing, not paid for by taxpayers, revenue bond financing, in order to start building those 73,000 units. They're fully approved, they're ready to be built. We also have 60,000 vacant units in San Francisco, and I have plans to bring those on the market and give people incentives and reasons to rent those units out.
So this is really interesting because you sound so business friendly, and you're probably the candidate that is considered the least business friendly. I'd love you to talk about that a little bit. And also, during your time in city government, you gained a reputation that is pretty tough. Right now, when you came in here, you said, "Don't believe what you've heard about me," which is interesting, which is an interesting thing to say, because you've been criticized as divisive, and one poll in September found that nearly half, 44% of voters said they would never vote for you, the highest by far of any candidate in terms of unfavorables. That's not Donald Trump level unfavorables, he's at 53%. But given the history, how can you bring people together?
So first of all, I have been elected 5 times by the good people of the northeast corner of the city, in Chinatown and North Beach, everything north of Market Street. And I've worked very hard for those constituents. And I have a history of actually bringing people together to solve tough problems, which is why my colleagues have elected me twice unanimously to be president of the board, and a third time recently on a mixed vote. But I have served as board president 3 times precisely because I do listen to people and I do bring people together. But there are often situations where, as a leader and decision maker, you have to make tough decisions and stand up to powerful interests and move San Francisco forward on the best path. And there are many instances of that. I'm very proud of the work that we did to save the San Francisco flower market, which was going to be demolished and displaced. And we ended up actually finding a solution to allow the development to go forward and find a new home for the San Francisco flower market, the second largest flower market in the United States of America that provides thousands of jobs. So sometimes things start as a fight, but people don't see the work that we do to actually realize very important results.
But I'd love you to answer the question, though. The unfavorables are high. They are high. And when you say don't believe everything you've heard about me, what do you think they've heard about you that is incorrect, and what's correct?
I mean, look, this is not a secret, Kara, which is I am in recovery 3.5 years ago, and really thanks to a community that reached out to me. I stopped drinking, and I'm very grateful for it. And it's really changed my outlook on life. It has made me a happier person. It's reminded me that I'm not just here to help the constituents of San Francisco, but that they have a role in helping me, and I thank my family for that. But it's really changed my outlook on life, and it's changed my attitude about things.
Okay.
I'm curious about an article that ran this summer in The Standard, which talked not about temperament, but talked about the way that you have carved out laws for businesses in your district. Much to their benefit, but I think there are questions about how that would work if you're a mayor. So this example that they were giving in The Standard was the story about Bob's Donuts, a beloved 24-hour donut store on Polk Street in your district. And you had written legislation that changed the ability for Bob's Donuts to move and go to a larger space. It would prevent them from doing so. And so in order to allow them to do so, you changed or carved out in your own legislation the ability for this one singular business to move and be in a larger space. And for people who read that and saw that there was one business being treated in one special way, it may have given them pause about how you would be a mayor for an entire city.
So, Reggie, first of all, let me say that I have been a supporter of small businesses for 25 years and have worked with communities and not against communities. And in the case of Polk Street, the business community has long liked and embraced the notion of having small business storefronts that are more affordable. But there are certain times when the community actually supports a change in that for specific reasons. And from time to time that happens, and it happens all over the city. And as mayor, I would encourage that, which is these are dynamic laws, and if we make thoughtful decisions, we can make exceptions to those laws through a public process where people participate, and we have good outcomes that encourage business to flourish. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
I think one of the things he's saying is, how do you become a mayor for all of San Francisco in that regard? I love Bob's Donuts, so please.
Same.
Thank you.
This is not an attack on Bob's Donuts.
No, not at all. But and I would say Bob's Donut too. I would absolutely do that. But how do you become a non-divisive candidate, like that you're all of San Francisco and not just your constituents?
So I listen to people. I work with people. I try to figure out what the best path forward is. I work with experts. I try to bring people together. You've seen it in instances where I work with my political opponents, like the work that Mayor Breed and I did to change the zoning downtown to build more housing, the work that I'm doing with my colleagues to provide more affordable financing so we can address our housing crisis. But ultimately, you listen to people and then you implement.
But I do think that there are many people who would say, whether it's a business owner or a developer, say they may prefer to just have a clear and consistent set of guidelines for everybody, as opposed to, you know, their success is contingent on having a relationship with an elected official. I mean, can you understand how that might give people pause?
What I have realized about San Francisco that I fell in love with 35 years ago when I moved here from the East Bay, and what I've realized in this campaign is that different neighborhoods have different needs, and it is really incumbent on the elected officials to listen and work with those neighborhoods. Different neighborhoods may want formula retail chain stores. Other neighborhoods might feel that is deleterious to the environment and the business viability of their existing neighborhoods. So as a mayor, you listen to those things and you work with those neighborhoods and interests. Downtown has a different set of needs than North Beach has, or the Richmond has, or Bernal Heights, or the Mission have. And that is what I think is incumbent on a good politician, is to address those people and those communities where they're at.
So in that regard, one of the constituencies is business, right? Because you need, right now, the budget, there's going to be a budget deficit of $1.3 billion by 2028. Tax revenues are down, obviously down to lots of reasons, all kinds of things, including businesses like Google, Meta, Block moving out, and others. So you have this lost revenue problem with a spending issue. So talk a little bit about how you are going to approach the business people, specifically tech, because right now the boom is in AI. I think probably, I'm safe to say, is you're not their favorite candidate right now among tech people. But how do you reach out to them? Because they're the kind of companies that will, you know, bring San Francisco back, specifically in AI, for example.
I have been one of the most fiscally prudent fiscally conservative members of the Board of Supervisors for the last generation. When I started, the city's fiscal reserves were very small. I insisted on having a robust rainy day reserve. I was one of the supervisors who took on the city's deferred pension liability. I think people in the business community know that I have been fiscally responsible. I have presided over the city's budget in good times and in challenging times. At the very beginning in 2001, when the dot-com 1.0 bust happened, I was able to work with my colleagues and the mayor to balance that budget. In the Great Recession of 2007 and 2008, I was president of the board and was able to make the tough cuts that we needed to make. I have that experience, and I've done it in conjunction with the business community. I am very proud that we crafted a tax reform package that is supported by the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, by the small business voices in San Francisco, that we worked with every different kind of business. There's nothing harder than tax policy, but ultimately it was embraced across the board because we did it together.
So what about with tech specifically? Because this is one of the keys to revitalization. AI is really important, I would say, for
as
the
you
city.
said, I think that San Francisco should, as I said, I think San Francisco should actually embrace tech. I think that the divisions in San Francisco about tech and displacement should be addressed by actually embracing it and creating an international center for tech diplomacy. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that the city shouldn't regulate, whether it's robo-taxis, and we should make sure things are safe and make sure that algorithms like RealPage don't artificially raise rents. It doesn't mean that we abdicate our responsibility as a government, but I think we should embrace tech, the jobs that it brings, the change that it creates, and there are many people in the tech industry who know that I support those ideas.
Have you ridden in a Waymo?
I have not.
Ah, why not?
Would you?
I'll go with you.
Well, so far after the cruise experience, they just got fined $1.5 million today by
That's a
the
different
United States
company.
of America. But no, I haven't done it yet.
Would you do it?
I would do it.
All right.
You're
We'll set
seen
you guys
as
up.
right. Okay, let's make sure that happens. You're seen as a progressive. I think that you would still identify as one, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so the only progressive, as far as I can tell, who is a major candidate in this race for mayor, being a progressive in San Francisco has become a little less popular in the past decade, and I'm wondering if you see that as an issue.
I think that the voters of San Francisco still care about progressive ideals. I think that this is a city that still needs and wants rent control. I think that this is a city that believes in universal health care, which the Board of Supervisors passed long before Barack Obama was President of the United States. There are many people in this city who still laud the Board of Supervisors and the progressive government for creating the first minimum wage of any city in the country. Those are, fundamental values. They're kitchen table values that I continue to support.
But is it also the same progressive ideals that got us the streets that we have now?
No, Reggie. The fact that we have an administration that has yet to put out sufficient number of trash cans, and you can go to every article, Google my name and trash cans, and you can see that I have again and again said that this mayor needs to, get rid of the fantasy of $10,000, fancy trash cans and get $800 off-the-shelf products. And one other progressive value is that I have constantly exposed corruption in this government. Our mayor keeps saying that compassion is killing us. It's not compassion that's killing us, it's corruption that's killing us. And a progressive value is exposing that corruption, and I am the only candidate in this race who has a plan for that, and it's Prop C on this November's ballot to combat corruption with the power of subpoena, the power of search warrant, an office of the Inspector General like New York has that just uncovered the corruption that led to the indictment of Mayor Eric Adams.
But beyond trash, just talking about the people who are living on our streets, the people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, the people who have mental health issues who are on our streets, and we've tried this for years to get them off the streets into supportive housing, and we're still in the same place basically that we've been.
So first of all, public safety is a transcendent value. having people do drugs on our streets, and I was the first supervisor who dragged the mayor and the Board of Supervisors to have a meeting of the Board of Supervisors in United Nations Plaza 2 years ago to call attention to the abject human misery. I have been to the medical examiner's office and seen the bodies and the feet sticking out from under sheets, and I believe that I am the only person in this race who has an actual plan. It's called From Crisis to Care. I'm happy to talk about it. Your viewers can Google it. It's on my website at aaron2024.com, but it is an implementable plan. It will move San Francisco forward, and I'm the only person who has actually committed that to writing with experts.
What's the first step of it?
The first step of it is systemic management reform to wrangle the 9 city departments and the 248 nonprofit service providers into a much more rational, much more accountable structure. The second point is that we need to, and I will lead, a groundbreaking regional approach to address our substance abuse and mental health, behavioral health crisis by working with the 9 Bay Area counties and the cities of San Jose and Oakland to refurbish unused and underutilized state facilities that have been sitting vacant since the days of Ronald Reagan, to have the economies of scale and efficiencies to address this problem and give people the treatment that they need.
You're talking about mental health hospitals.
I'm talking about mental health and substance abuse slots.
And do you still sweep the streets of the camps?
Absolutely. I have been a proponent of conservatorship. We need to expand conservatorship laws in San Francisco and the state of California to give us the tools that we need, and we have to give those people treatment while we are aggressively arresting and prosecuting dealers.
Okay, I think the last question. It's an unusual one. The race will likely be determined through ranked choice voting. Who will be your number 2 on the ballot? And since you're such a positive guy, say something positive about them.
So let me say this, which is, I ask your viewers to vote for the most experienced person in this race who is actually capable of moving San Francisco in the right direction, and I would be honored to have people's number 1 vote. I encourage people to utilize all of their votes and to study all of the candidates in this race. Far be it for me to make those decisions for voters, but I will tell you this: there are certain forces in San Francisco that are encouraging voters to only vote for 2 people or only vote for 3 people. I think everybody needs to go out and do their research because ultimately that is participating in a runoff. So I encourage people to go do their research. Far be it from me to tell people how to vote.
I'm not asking you to tell other voters what to vote for. What is your number 2, 3, and 4?
I'm still making that decision.
Is there anybody you've totally ruled out?
I will tell you that there are actually 8 other candidates on this ballot that people should take a look at, and I've actually gotten to know a few of them, and a few of them actually have compelling stories and compelling policies.
Finally, I do want to ask you one more question. Remind me how many years now that you've been in City Hall?
I was elected in the year 2000. I served for 8 years. Then I went and became the executive director of a nonprofit that buys water rights to improve water quality flows in rivers in the West, primarily for the benefit of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe in Nevada. And then I came back into office at the end of 2015.
So when you add up all those years, it's a long time. And you could go out as the president of the Board of Supervisors again, having a storied career, being beloved by a lot of your constituents, at least, specifically Bob's Donuts. And you could say that was a good run. Why bother with this?
I love this city. I think it needs a little bit of help from experienced leadership. I'm not running for any other office. I am 60 years old. This is the work I want to do night and day. I'm not doing this because I'm interested in ribbon cuttings. I'm doing this because I want to do the boring work to solve the cleanliness problem, to solve the homeless problem, to solve the public safety problem, to solve the drug overdose problem. And I actually think that I now have the experience and a new outlook on life to help San Francisco recover.
Thank you very much. To hear what all the candidates are saying about these important topics, please watch them at abc7news.com/sfmayor. Also, take a look at the San Francisco Standard and listen to the podcast On with Kara Swisher. Aaron Peskin, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me, guys.